The Searchers, 1956, remains one of the most influential and iconic Western films ever made. Directed by John Ford and starring the legendary John Wayne, this cinematic masterpiece brought together a remarkable cast whose performances left a lasting mark on Hollywood history. But while the film continues to inspire generations of filmmakers and fans, many of its talented actors have sadly passed away, some under tragic and unexpected circumstances. In this video, we take a heartfelt look back at the stars of The Searchers who are no longer with us. From celebrated careers to untold personal struggles, we honor their lives, remember their contributions, and uncover the stories behind their final days. John Wayne was born on May 26, 1907, and played Ethan Edwards in The Searchers, 1956, at age 49. Ethan was not your traditional Western hero. He was vengeful, racist, emotionally volatile, and driven by an obsessive quest that bordered on madness. Wayne's portrayal was hauntingly powerful, but many critics and scholars have since pointed out the eerie similarities between the character's brutality and Wayne's real-life persona. Known for his gruff masculinity, Wayne often played men who lived by their own moral code, something that blurred lines between fiction and his own controversial worldview. Born into a broken family with financial struggles, young Wayne, then Marion Morrison, was teased for his large size and limp caused by a body surfing accident. He buried his insecurities behind bravado, forging a hyper-masculine image. But the cracks showed. On set, Wayne was notoriously controlling, frequently rewriting scenes, refusing to take direction, and even pressuring producers to fire co-stars he disliked. His darkest moment came not on screen but in a 1971 Playboy interview, where he unapologetically defended white supremacy, condemned Native American land rights, and made shockingly homophobic remarks. The backlash was intense, but his conservative fans rallied behind him. Privately, his marriages were fraught with alcohol-fueled fights, especially with his volatile second wife, Esperanza Bauer, who once tried to shoot him. His children, while publicly supportive, often admitted their father was emotionally distant and ruled the family like a military unit. Wayne's years of heavy smoking, reportedly up to 6 packs a day, led to lung cancer in 1964, but he kept filming, masking his pain with morphine and scotch. He died on June 11, 1979, at age 72 in Los Angeles from stomach cancer. At the time of his death, he owned oil wells, ranches, luxury homes, and had a net worth of approximately $50 million. Even in death, controversy followed. His name has repeatedly come under scrutiny, with demands to remove it from public monuments due to his inflammatory statements. Still, his image as the all-American cowboy persists, frozen in time and myth. Natalie Wood was born on July 20, 1938, and took on the role of Debbie Edwards in The Searchers, 1956, at the age of 18, having filmed it when she was just 15. In the film, she embodied the quiet resilience of a girl abducted by Comanches and caught between two worlds, becoming the emotional center of the story's obsessive quest. But behind that delicate portrayal was a life marked by manufactured innocence and deep psychological turmoil. Born Natalia Nikolaevna Zakharenko to Russian immigrant parents, Natalie was pushed into acting by her domineering mother, Maria, who once allegedly told a director to break her spirit if it got the best shot. Natalie's childhood was riddled with emotional manipulation, staged tears, and relentless pressure to remain picture perfect. Her public image as a wholesome starlet masked profound insecurities and a lifelong fear of water, tragically prophetic. Her career was tumultuous. She was accused of using her sexuality to secure roles and had high-profile, volatile relationships with men like Warren Beatty, Elvis Presley, and Frank Sinatra. Her marriage to Robert Wagner was anything but stable. The two divorced in 1962 amid rumors of infidelity, only to remarry a decade later, a decision many insiders viewed as toxic. On the night of her death, November 29, 1981, when she was 43, she was on her yacht with Wagner and actor Christopher Walken. After a heated argument, she went missing. Her body was found hours later, floating in the water, with bruises on her arms and a facial abrasion. Wagner's account of the night shifted over the years. fueling speculation of foul play. The case was reopened in 2011, with Wagner later named a person of interest, though no charges were filed. Her net worth at the time of her death was estimated at $2.5 million, but her mysterious passing overshadowed even her celebrated career. Despite decades of stardom, Natalie's legacy remains steeped in unanswered questions, whispered accusations, and the chilling irony that the woman terrified of drowning met her end in dark waters. Jeffrey Hunter, born Henry Herman McKinney Jr. on November 25, 1926, portrayed Martin Pauly in The Searchers, 1956, at age 30. Martin, Ethan's part Cherokee adoptive nephew, was the film's emotional core. Young, idealistic, and the moral counterweight to Ethan's dark obsessions. While the audience saw a gentle and honorable man on screen, behind the scenes, Hunter was unraveling under the weight of a Hollywood machine that both adored and abandoned him. Raised by a devoutly religious family in Arkansas and later California, Hunter endured a strict and emotionally cold upbringing. He was handsome, clean-cut, and studios groomed him as the next big star. But Hunter loathed the superficiality. Though he rose to fame in the 1950s, his career was riddled with frustration. He was considered for the role of Jesus in King of Kings, 1961, a film that should have cemented his stardom, but his performance was widely mocked, earning him the cruel nickname, "I was a teenage Jesus." Studio execs lost confidence and his star faded fast. The final blow came with Star Trek. Cast as Captain Christopher Pike in the 1964 pilot, Hunter was abruptly replaced by William Shatner. Sources say he clashed with producers and was labeled difficult, though others suggest he was cut because his agent demanded too much money. As his career declined, Hunter turned to low-budget European films, often working in harsh conditions. His personal life was equally turbulent. His marriage to actress Barbara Rush ended in a bitter custody battle, and his third marriage to model Emily McLaughlin, famous for General Hospital, was reportedly marred by fights over money and jealousy. Hunter's final years were plagued by health issues and depression. In 1969, after a fall on a film set, he suffered an intracranial hemorrhage and later collapsed at home. He died on May 27, 1969, aged just 42. At his death, he left behind a modest estate of around $2 million. Despite his beauty and talent, Hollywood turned its back on Hunter when he needed it most. His grave remains largely unvisited, an eerie symbol of a career that burned fast and died tragically young. Olive Carey, born Olive Fuller Golden on January 31, 1896, played the matriarch Mrs. Jorgensen in The Searchers, 1956, at the age of 60, delivering a performance grounded in wisdom and maternal strength. Her character, a pillar of the frontier community, was an embodiment of silent resilience, a quality Olive knew intimately. Born into the chaotic world of vaudeville, she grew up in unstable surroundings, filled with show business artifice and financial uncertainty. Her father, George Fuller Golden, was a fading variety act whose alcoholism left the family destitute more than once. In 1920, she married Harry Carey, a Western film legend known for his stoic persona, but not for his loyalty. Their marriage was fraught with conflict. Harry was frequently away filming, often rumored to be romantically entangled with co-stars, leaving Olive to manage their sprawling San Francisco Canyon ranch and raise their children largely alone. The 1928 St. Francis Dam disaster destroyed their property and killed over 400 people. The emotional and financial devastation haunted her for decades. Privately, she struggled with episodes of depression and reportedly underwent electroconvulsive therapy in the early 1930s, something her family never acknowledged publicly. Though Olive was respected in the Western film community, she often found herself relegated to supporting roles, her career overshadowed by her husband's. She had a difficult relationship with her son, Harry Kerry Jr., especially during his early acting years, when he distanced himself from his parents' legacy. John Ford, who cast her in several films, once dismissed her in front of crew members, saying, "You're just here because your husband was somebody." Despite this, Olive persevered, quietly becoming a favorite among younger actors for her quiet counsel and maternal demeanor. She died on March 13, 1988 at 92, at her Carpinteria, California, home from natural causes. Her estate, primarily consisting of ranch land and memorabilia, was estimated under $500,000. Ward Bond was born on April 9, 1903, and played Reverend Captain Samuel Johnston Clayton in The Searchers, 1956, at age 53. As Clayton, Bond embodied both military authority and religious zeal, tough, blunt, and oddly comedic. But the role mirrored Bond's own personality, domineering, polarizing, and explosive. Off-camera, Bond was infamous in Hollywood circles for his bullying behavior and reactionary politics. Raised in rural Nebraska, Bond experienced a strict upbringing marked by religious fundamentalism and emotional repression. He escaped into football, eventually playing at USC alongside a young John Wayne. Their bond lasted a lifetime, but even Wayne reportedly found Bond's personality hard to handle. Bond's private life was a mess of contradictions. He was married only once, to Doris Sellers Childs, but the marriage collapsed within a year amid allegations of violence and adultery. He never remarried and often bragged about his bachelor lifestyle, though insiders whispered about his latent insecurities and intense control issues. Professionally, Bond was prolific, appearing in over 200 films, but he was also feared. On numerous occasions, he physically assaulted co-stars and crew members, especially while drunk. His deep involvement with the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, a group that pushed for blacklisting alleged communists, cemented his reputation as a zealot. Bond was directly involved in the blacklisting of several actors and writers, and was unapologetic about it. The incident that nearly ended his career occurred in 1952 when he drunkenly crashed his car into a tree after a political argument and was hospitalized. Studio executives quietly paid off the police to keep it out of the press. Despite this, Bond remained a go-to actor for John Ford, who appreciated his intensity. But the years of drinking, stress, and chain smoking took their toll. On November 5, 1960, Bond died suddenly of a heart attack in a Dallas hotel. He was 57. At the time, his estate was estimated at $5 million, consisting mainly of real estate and residuals from Wagon Train, the hit series he starred in before his death. Henry Brandon, born Heinrich von Kleinbach on June 8, 1912, in Berlin, Germany, portrayed Scar, the Comanche war chief and morally complex antagonist in The Searchers, 1956, at age 44. Scar, feared yet tragic, abducts Debbie Edwards as an act of revenge for his slain sons, becoming the film's dark emotional core. Brandon's performance, layered with intensity and ambiguity, captivated audiences, turning a villain into a deeply unsettling symbol of loss and retribution. But few knew the full story of the man behind the war paint. Raised in Berlin during World War I, Brandon emigrated to the U.S. as a teenager, hiding his Jewish ancestry throughout his life. He studied drama at Stanford, yet even there he was ostracized for his effeminate mannerisms and German accent, forcing him to develop a chameleon-like ability to disappear into roles. In Hollywood, he became typecast in ethnic villain parts, often in brownface, yellowface, or blackface. Roles he took not by choice, but from desperation, trapped by the industry's racist casting practices. His personal life remained deliberately opaque. Though never publicly out, Brandon maintained a decades-long romantic relationship with actor Mark Weren, who briefly married Judy Garland in what many believe was a cover-up for both men's sexual orientations. Privately, Brandon navigated the Hollywood gay underground, once arrested in 1958 during a police sting at a gay bar, though the charge was quietly dropped thanks to studio intervention. He struggled with addiction to sleeping pills in the 1960s and reportedly battled depression exacerbated by being repeatedly passed over for serious dramatic roles due to his accent and appearance. Brandon's most painful career moment came when he was replaced without notice from a Broadway production in 1965 after rehearsals had begun, allegedly because the producer discovered his sexuality. He died on February 15, 1990, in Los Angeles at age 77 from a heart attack. At the time of his death, he had no close surviving family, no will, and a modest estate valued under $1 million, mostly composed of residuals and a small Brentwood home. Kerry Jr., born Henry George Kerry Jr. on May 16, 1921, in Saugus, California, portrayed the impassioned, doomed cowboy Brad Jorgensen in The Searchers, 1956, at age 35. Brad's character, driven by youthful idealism and romantic longing, serves as an early casualty in the film, a symbol of innocence lost in the face of frontier brutality. Off-screen, Kerry Jr. bore the weight of legacy as the son of silent film pioneer Harry Carey Sr. and Western actress Olive Carey. From the beginning, he was seen as the heir to Hollywood's first cowboy dynasty, a blessing that soon became a psychological curse. Growing up on his father's ranch, Kerry Jr. was subjected to a regimented life, with a domineering father who demanded perfection and a mother who emotionally distanced herself. Rumors persist that Kerry Jr. struggled with undiagnosed PTSD after serving in World War II's Navy Civil Engineer Corps. He returned home emotionally withdrawn, secretly battling alcoholism through much of the 1950s and 60s. Though part of director John Ford's inner circle, Kerry's loyalty often came at a cost. Ford, known for his cruelty, humiliated Kerry on set, even slapping him during a scene in Wagon Master. Kerry never retaliated, though friends described him as crushed for weeks after each public berating. His biggest career failure was missing the chance to star in Shane, 1953, a role he was briefly attached to before being replaced by Alan Ladd, reportedly because the studio doubted Kerry's sexual charisma. The incident haunted him. His personal life appeared stable. He was married for over 65 years to Marilyn Fix. But insiders noted long periods of separation, with speculation of affairs during his European film years. Kerry Jr. also maintained tense relationships with his children, one of whom later wrote a memoir describing a ghost-like father always elsewhere. Late in life, Kerry was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, but kept the condition secret. He died on December 27, 2012 in Santa Barbara at the age of 91 from natural causes. His estate was valued at roughly $3 million, including rights to several classic films, a large memorabilia collection, and ranch property. Ken Curtis, born Curtis Wayne Gates on July 2, 1916, in Lamar, Colorado, played the well-meaning but socially awkward Charlie McCory in The Searchers, 1956, at the age of 40. Charlie, a comedic yet sincere suitor vying for Laurie's affection, provided light amid the film's psychological darkness. Curtis, who grew up the son of a sheriff in rural Colorado, endured a childhood marked by economic hardship and emotional repression. Despite a strict Methodist upbringing, Curtis gravitated to music and escaped a stifling home by joining the Army during World War II. His golden voice propelled him into the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, where he temporarily replaced Frank Sinatra, a move met with public ridicule and media derision. Sinatra himself reportedly despised Curtis, calling him a cowboy in crooner's clothing. After failing to maintain his musical fame, Curtis spiraled briefly into alcoholism, which contributed to the collapse of an early, unpublicized marriage in the 1940s. When his music career dried up, he clawed his way into acting, often through connections rather than acclaim. Curtis married Barbara Ford, daughter of director John Ford, which many whispered was a career move. Their marriage was rocky, marred by long separations, rumored affairs, and reports of verbal abuse. His conservative politics further alienated him from many in the industry. He publicly supported Barry Goldwater in 1964, and friends noted his temper flared when challenged, especially regarding civil rights. Curtis's reputation on set was conflicted. While beloved by some fans for his role as Festus on Gunsmoke, cast and crew described him as controlling and paranoid, frequently rewriting dialogue and undermining co-stars. His biggest humiliation came when he was removed from a lead role in a CBS pilot in 1971 due to complaints of erratic behavior and heavy drinking. He reportedly never forgave the network. In later years, he retreated to Las Vegas, occasionally performing Western-themed stage shows while clinging to past glory. He died in his sleep of a heart attack on April 28, 1991, at age 74. His estate, surprisingly lucrative due to music royalties and real estate investments, was estimated at $5 million. Hank Worden, born Norton Earl Worden on July 23, 1901, in Rolfe, Iowa, brought the role of Mose Harper to life in The Searchers, 1956, at the age of 55. His portrayal of the disheveled, oddball loner, equal parts madman and seer, was unforgettable. Mose, with his dream of a quiet life in a rocking chair by the fire, became an oddly profound figure in a film about blood vengeance and cultural division. But Hank Worden's own life was even stranger. Educated at Stanford and the University of Texas with a degree in engineering, Worden seemed destined for anything but show business. He fell into acting through rodeo work, but behind the affable demeanor was a man carrying deep trauma. He broke his neck during a rodeo in the 1930s, but continued performing for years, unaware of the severity of his injury, which may explain his distinctive speech and stilted movements, often mistaken for character choices. Worden became a fixture in John Wayne's inner circle, but some whispered he was kept around as a sort of mascot, more pitied than respected. Though seen as generous, Worden was known to vanish from sets without warning, possibly due to undiagnosed PTSD or mental health struggles. He never married, never spoke of love, and lived most of his life in a single-room apartment filled with Western memorabilia and a locked trunk no one was allowed to touch. After his death, it was discovered to contain hundreds of letters, unopened and unsent, addressed to a woman named Mary, whose identity remains unknown. Though not wealthy, Worden's modest net worth under $1 million couldn't account for the cult legend he became. He died in his sleep on December 6, 1992, in Los Angeles at age 91. There was no funeral, no estate dispute, just a faded cowboy hat left behind, and a legend of the eccentric, gentle ghost of the American West. Ruth Clifford, born February 17, 1900, in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, was 56 when she delivered one of the most harrowing performances in The Searchers, 1956, playing the deranged woman at the fort. Though on screen for mere minutes, her character, a mother shattered by captivity and violence, left a deep, unsettling imprint on audiences. Clifford's career began in silent film when she was just a teenager, and she quickly became known for her luminous beauty, but the transition to sound was brutal. Her voice, considered too delicate and refined, didn't match the studio's vision for strong female leads, and she was quickly demoted to background roles. By the 1940s, she was working primarily as a voice actress, including as Minnie Mouse and Daisy Duck for a time. Ironically, characters far cheerier than the tragedy that defined her real life. Clifford's marriage to film director Beverly Griffith ended in divorce after years of mutual infidelity and allegations of emotional abuse. The custody battle over their daughter became a quiet scandal in studio circles. She was rumored to have had a long, toxic affair with a married actor in the late 1930s, which ended when his wife threatened to go public. Clifford spiraled. Friends described her as brilliant but consumed by bitterness. She reportedly became addicted to sleeping pills in the 1950s and underwent a nervous breakdown that forced her off several sets. Still, she remained fiercely loyal to director John Ford, who gave her roles out of respect, and perhaps guilt. In her final years, Clifford was mostly forgotten by the industry. Her daughter moved abroad and rarely contacted her, and Clifford was seen walking alone in Los Angeles, still wearing outdated makeup and clinging to memories of a past life. She died on November 30th, 1998, at the age of 98, of natural causes in a nursing home. Her estate was valued at approximately $1 million, mostly consisting of old film reels, vintage jewelry, and residuals from Disney voice work. Yet the loneliness surrounding her death was stark. There was no obituary in major papers, no tribute from the industry she helped build. John Qualin, born Johann Mant Qualin on December 8, 1899, portrayed the kindly settler Lars Jorgensen in The Searchers, 1956, at age 57. His character, a Norwegian farmer, was gentle and good-natured, a mirror of the roles Hollywood constantly assigned him. But behind the meek screen persona lay a far more complex and troubled figure. The son of a Norwegian pastor, Qualin grew up in a rigid, deeply religious household where emotional expression was suppressed. He initially pursued a law degree at the University of Minnesota, but dropped out, choosing a risky acting career that led him to New York stages before Hollywood beckoned. While he found steady work in over 100 films, he remained typecast as ethnic caricatures with thick accents, which he grew to resent. Privately, Qualin struggled with an inferiority complex and clinical depression, worsened by chronic professional rejection. The worst blow came in the 1940s when he was replaced last minute in a prominent role in The Grapes of Wrath, a part he had considered his breakout opportunity. Friends later claimed he was inconsolable for months. Though scandal never publicly touched him, Qualin's life was marked by emotional estrangement from his family. One daughter reportedly cut ties with him after years of emotional distance and authoritarian parenting. Behind his back, directors whispered that he was too intense, prone to emotional outbursts during rehearsals, traits that contradicted his on-screen softness. In his later years, he was nearly blind, financially insecure, and living in near anonymity, despite having worked with legends like John Ford and Alfred Hitchcock. He died of heart failure on September 12, 1987 at 87, at the Motion Picture Country home. His estate, mostly residual checks and a modest retirement account, was valued at around $1 million. Hollywood remembered him as a reliable character actor, but the man behind the roles was a bitter reminder of how easily the industry disposes of its quiet workhorses. Antonio Moreno, born Antonio Garrido Monteagudo on September 26, 1887 in Madrid, Spain, played Emilio Gabriel Fernandez y Figueroa in The Searchers, 1956, at the age of 69. In the film, Moreno's portrayal of the cultured Mexican rancher added a layer of sophistication and humanity to an otherwise brutal narrative. His character stood as a moral counterpoint to Ethan Edwards' racism and vengeance, quietly commanding respect through measured wisdom and subtle strength. Audiences were drawn to this mysterious figure, whose presence suggested unspoken histories and ethical clarity amid frontier savagery. Off-screen, however, Antonio Moreno's life was steeped in contradictions, scandal, and faded stardom. In the silent era, he rivaled Rudolph Valentino as a romantic idol, famously known as the Spanish lover. But with the advent of sound, his heavy Spanish accent doomed him in an industry obsessed with American voices. He spiraled into obscurity and suffered a humiliating fall from grace. His 1923 marriage to oil heiress Daisy Canfield brought wealth, but also tension, filled with accusations of affairs on both sides. The couple lived lavishly in a Los Angeles mansion, La Casa de Castillo, often hosting the elite of Hollywood. But things took a tragic turn in 1933 when Daisy died in a mysterious car accident, driving off a cliff near Mulholland Drive under circumstances that sparked whispers of suicide or foul play. Moreno never recovered emotionally. Despite attempts to revive his career in Mexican cinema, rumors swirled of exploitative behavior on set, particularly manipulating desperate young actresses. His directorial efforts were inconsistent and often marred by behind-the-scenes feuds. Isolated in his final years, Moreno died of heart failure on February 15, 1967, in Beverly Hills at age 79. Once worth millions, his estate had shrunk to around $1 million due to poor investments, legal battles over Daisy's will, and medical costs. He left no children, no final message, and no will, only a haunting legacy of fleeting stardom and personal ruin. Dorothy Jordan, born August 9, 1906, in Clarksville, Tennessee, portrayed Martha Edwards in The Searchers, 1956, at the age of 50. Her performance as the poised and gentle sister-in-law of Ethan Edwards delivered a quiet, emotional jolt that haunted the entire film. Her subtle glances toward Ethan, her maternal warmth, and the silent, forbidden affection that passed between them added tragic undertones to the opening scenes. Martha vanishes early in the story, but her presence remains a ghostly compass for the protagonist's rage and grief. Off-screen, Dorothy's life was far more layered than her demure character suggested. Born into a deeply conservative Southern household, she was raised in a strict Methodist family that disapproved of the performing arts, forcing her to hide her early-stage ambitions. Her mother was widowed young and struggled with mental illness, a fact Jordan would never publicly acknowledge, though it reportedly haunted her relationships. Jordan began acting in the late 1920s, quickly rising through the ranks due to her delicate features and precise diction. But behind her polished image was a woman deeply conflicted. When she married producer and director Marion C. Cooper, famed for King Kong in 1933, she retired abruptly, not out of desire, but because Cooper allegedly demanded it. Friends said she privately referred to her marriage as a gilded cage. Cooper was known to be domineering, and there were rumors of his extramarital affairs and controlling behavior. Jordan returned to the screen occasionally, mostly in films directed by John Ford, who remained a close friend. These appearances were seen as quiet acts of defiance. She suffered from depression and long periods of reclusiveness, and sources suggest she once sought electroshock therapy in the 1950s, then a taboo subject in Hollywood. Her son, William Cooper, struggled with addiction, which further isolated her in later years. Jordan died on December 7, 1988, at the age of 82, from congestive heart failure in Los Angeles. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at $1 million, mostly from investments made by Cooper. Walter Coy, born Walter Darwin. Coy, on January 31, 1909, in Great Falls, Montana, portrayed Aaron Edwards in The Searchers, 1956, at age 47. Though his character is killed early on, Aaron's presence looms over the film, a symbol of the fragile domestic dream destroyed by frontier violence. Off-screen, Coy lived a life marked by internal battles, artistic obsession, and personal chaos. Born into a strict, emotionally repressed household, Coy was punished for crying and discouraged from showing affection. This upbringing made him a formidable stage actor, known for tapping into deep reservoirs of restrained emotion, but it also damaged his ability to sustain relationships. After several acclaimed Broadway roles, Coy was once hailed as the next big dramatic actor, only to sabotage his career through a series of behind-the-scenes altercations. He had a notorious feud with a Broadway director that ended in a violent fistfight and an unofficial blacklist in theater circles. Transitioning to television and film, he earned steady but unremarkable roles, all while battling alcoholism that worsened in the 1960s. Coy was married 3 times, all ending in acrimonious divorces. His second wife filed for divorce after alleging physical abuse and mental cruelty, claims Coy always denied. Estranged from his only son, who reportedly changed his last name, Coy's later years were marked by increasing paranoia and public outbursts. A nervous breakdown in 1971 led to brief institutionalization, something never officially acknowledged by his estate. He died of congestive heart failure on December 11, 1974, in Santa Maria, California, at 65. His estate was valued at just over $500,000, with much of it tied up in old screen residuals and unsettled debts. His gravestone bears no mention of Hollywood or his acting career, just the word father. Once poised to be a star, Walter Coy died nearly forgotten, buried under the weight of unfulfilled promise and a legacy erased by silence. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from The Searchers who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.